My grandmother worked at a bakery in Ottumwa back in the day. She was a widow raising 2 kids. It was a unionized bakery. She couldn't afford the union dues. So the union let her take notes during their meeting and made her secretary so she could be in the union. So she was working. The union looked out for her. There was a new procedure for wrapping bread that the bakery was making, so they made sure she got that job. It paid a little more. She was a widow raising 2 kids. So when men came back from the war, they were saying the women in the workforce were taking the men's jobs. And so the union said, no, this was a new job, came up during the war. She's not taking a job from anybody. It's her job as long as she can do it. Well, then she had a hysterectomy. And she went back to work. But part of her job was to carry the this sheet with the bread on it from point A to point B. And, her doctor didn't want her to do it. She had to work. I mean, this is a woman who, when the Ottumwa had their flood, walked across a flooded bridge to get home to her kids. So the union helped her keep her job. Some union guy took that bread for her until she could carry it herself. This is generational. Unions are important. And Waterloo supports the union.
First and foremost, throughout the pandemic especially, we've been called essential workers. And just having lived through the pandemic and being called that and understanding that the conditions and the living standards that we have, it's just simply unacceptable. And I think we're trying to change the working conditions not only for Starbucks workers, but, hopefully this leads to more people being able to say, enough is enough. I also want a better working environment and an actual say in my workplace.
They gave us, completely against our wishes, 2 additional support managers. What they're supporting other than the anti-union campaign remains to be seen.
There's as many people they brought in here, almost as many, I believe, as people voting in the union election. That's the type of disruption you're not supposed to do. I'm a regular at a couple of the stores here. They've taken the stores that I know people at, and they disrupted them by doubling the size of the people at times. That's dangerous. 2 of our committee just got COVID. They were they were put into a work situation purely as a way to disrupt about the union.
The timeline, lines up that within those 12 days from October 1st to the 12th is probably when we would have gotten COVID, right before we went out. On isolation. And
the only thing that's really been different in my life is that I've been working with upwards of 10 to 15 or 10 extra people, 12, 13 extra people.
And that's just people on the floor. If we have 16 partners that are working on the floor, we also have 4 to 5 managers that are hovering around in the lobby, in the back of house, talking to each other. The amount of people packed into that building tripled in that week. It would be hard to kind of attribute this to anything else solely because that change was so drastic.
And not even to mention the people who are coming in from all over the country. This is not local or anything. If there's outbreak from travel or anything like that, anything could be possible.
And, we can only see it as both a tactic to disrupt a very strong pro-union store, to, scare workers, to intimidate them, and to basically break their solidarity.
And we had to sit through 3 days of them basically telling us that not only are we essentially coffee robots that can just be put anywhere and assigned a position and we don't have to have any say in it, but that our managers who've worked very, very hard to take care of these stores and take care of us under these awful conditions don't actually have any say in what goes on.
We are worth living wages, and we are worth having safe working conditions.
But without baristas, there would be no Starbucks. Without people like us on the ground, we are what makes Starbucks what it is. And, Kevin Johnson just got a $20 million bonus over the pandemic. Well, we were the ones in the stores. Most of my coworkers got sick with COVID, if not all of them. So, just wanted to say too that Starbucks has the ability to raise living standards, and they've chosen not to.
It's usually the first 25, 30 minutes is them talking at us And generally, at this point, it's all anti-union. It started off, the first 2 meetings were kind of, we're here to help you, you raised your hand, we're so excited to be here and fix things. And then they've gotten progressively, they've broken us into smaller groups. They've scheduled these so that the most vocal of us are in one group and the quieter people are in other groups. So I mean, it's blatantly obvious to us, and I'm sure that they know that. I'm just not so sure that they care.
Unions come out of, struggles of working class people from, the 1800s and before. And we know what a union is. We know what the values of a union are. It's to support working class people. So Starbucks was piecing together every, bad piece of information they could find on unions to create this kind of like a collage of anti-union messages. They were pulling, practices from the trade unions, from different unions from different sectors, to try to intimidate workers. They'll do anything but actually talk about, what unions actually do.
They also put up the financials of the union to try to explain that, the higher echelon of the union, as you will, are making lots of money, and that's my dues paying into their salary. So I asked them if I could see Starbucks financials, and they said, well, that's public information. And I said, well, this is all public information as well, but you spent time to make a 25-minute PowerPoint about it. I said, can you explain to me why I shouldn't be concerned that our CEO got a $20 million bonus in the middle of a pandemic, and I have partners who can't afford to pay their rent and put groceries in their fridge on the same week? They kept saying, well, the union is a business. And I said, as opposed to Starbucks non-for-profit? I mean, who are we trying to fool here?
You guys say you're not anti-union, yet this is the most anti-union thing I've ever seen in my life. How can you say that? And they were like, well, we're just giving you the facts. Well, it's like, okay, well, how come you can give your facts, yet when we try to provide information, you tell me that that's my opinion?
The entire last listening session was a 25-minute PowerPoint that ripped apart the Workers' United Constitution. It was fear-mongering, and I called it out as fear-mongering. I also asked if they could juxtapose with that Constitution with Starbucks' Constitution, to which I was told they don't have a Constitution. So I asked what they had, and they said, well, we have policies and procedures. And I said, okay, well, who votes on those policies and procedures? And they said, well, nobody. I said, so there's no democratic system set up that allows me to have a say in my workplace? Well, no. I said, well, that's not helpful to me.
I brought pamphlets to my store that were sitting in the back room, just like where they put their information out. And mysteriously, a group of corporate people came into my store, and then when I went back there after they left, all my pamphlets were gone.
But their whole issue with the union was it was third party going to come between us and our ability to communicate with one another. And like you just said, you've got partners who their stores have been flooded with corporate to the point where they don't even know who they're supposed to talk to anymore in the case of an emergency. And you have COVID and you've got to make 10 phone calls to get a hold. I mean, that's not the partner-to-partner communication they've been professing. So they've kind of hurt themselves in a lot of ways. They've been doing a lot of talking, and it's been a lot of sort of do as I say, not as I do.
I know partners that have been here for 10 years that have never had these listening sessions, which are apparently really common, and we should have in theory already.
That's what we've been seeing in the stores. I've never heard of that as a labor lawyer or working with organizers with, many decades of experience. Nobody involved in this campaign has seen anything like this.
But I believe, the anti-union efforts are going to only intensify now, especially now that we have a month-long process of waiting for these mail-in ballots to come in and be counted. I think, what we saw, prior to getting this ruling is just going to be a prelude to an even more massive anti-union campaign ramping up. So I'm sure, there's going to be, if not weekly meetings, maybe almost like bi-weekly meetings, if not more.
I've always said companies like money more than they hate unions. I found a company now that hates unions more than they like money. If I was a shareholder and watched the level of their spending here of anything to spend, I would be concerned. It's just a model. You couldn't take this model across the country.
The amount they're spending on all these executives?
Yeah, the amount you're doubling and tripling the store managers. That's going to up, and you're also people are just being jammed in and closing down stores. Walden Anderson, where we had over 80% signed up, and since we petitioned for an election, even though it was withdrawn for a technical reason, would normally be refound, it was closed as a cafe. Go away customers, go away workers, and the workers are dispersed into the airport Starbucks where they doubled up.
So tell me about what made you guys decide to go on strike and what has been the response from your managers and corporate.
I mean, as a whole, we're just fed up with the union busting. It's becoming too much, and we need to take direct action. The biggest thing happened where Starbucks released a benefits package across the country, and they're not offering it to unionized stores, and they're trying to say, oh, it's because of the unions. We can't do it. We're not allowed to. We would do it if we could. That's not the case. I would also further about our bargaining.
At our specific store, it's really been a problem with getting the stores properly scheduled. We've been closing nonstop. The customers are fed up with it. We're fed up with it. We just want to work our hours so we can pay our bills.
We have, honestly, a pretty ridiculous turnover rate, I think, especially for the type of work that we do. And a lot of the ways that Starbucks sells themselves as a really great company to work for. They think that people are in there for the long haul. But because our turnover rate is so crazy, we can't train people fast enough, for how fast we're losing them. And so what ends up happening is we're throwing people in before they're really ready, so they can't carry the store the way that management wants them to, which is completely understaffed because they understaffed to meet their sales goals. And the other side of that is if somebody calls out, because we are so severely understaffed on purpose, we have to close the store because there's nobody to work. In reality, it really seems like they would rather run their stores into the ground and run their partners into the ground rather than bargain with the union and give us the things that we need and the things that we're asking for and the things that they promised to give us and are now trying to take away.
We all know about Trump's fence and build the wall. Well, Amazon has literally erected a wall within the past, or a fence within the past few weeks to make it harder for workers here to unionize. I guess they're taking what they did in Alabama, doubling and tripling down. So I'm here with Derek Palmer. You still work in the warehouse, and you've kind of been leading, along with Christian, who was fired, and a couple others. You're kind of leading this effort to pick up the mantle, I guess, from Alabama and try to get the first union in America with Amazon. So you recently filed with the National Labor Relations Board a grievance because they're already union busting. So I want to get into that. Christian Smalls, everybody should know.
Well, they put it up after one of our barbecues. We held a barbecue for all associates, to come and get some real food, versus the food inside of Amazon, and also to sign union cards and also get information about union cards as well. And right after the day after that barbecue, I guess they saw that it was a huge success. A lot of people were signing up, and then we came back. I believe the next day we weren't here, but the day after that we came back and the fence was here.
And I don't know if you could show them, John, but it's literally private property all over the fence. Even though I believe we're on a public sidewalk. Yeah. Do you feel like the progressive politicians, particularly AOC, Bernie, kind of abandoned you while supporting other workers?
No, I mean, I think they're too busy getting coffee at Starbucks. I don't know. I mean, I can't really call it. I can't explain it either. This once again questions that you have to ask them. Why they haven't supported their own constituents. I have people that's organizers that come from their district that was looking forward to seeing them come out here. It's sad and unfortunate, and once again, these are y'all elected officials. I'm from New Jersey, but the workers that I'm organizing with and the workers that I'm fighting for are from New York, and they're from Jackson Heights, they're from the Bronx, they're from Harlem, they're from Brooklyn, they're from all these different districts and counties and boroughs in New York. So any progressive politician could have showed up in the last 11 months. And that's all I have to say about that. We don't, I know that my team and the way we organize, we don't care about the outside noise and, who's supporting, who's not. We just do what we do. And unfortunately, win or lose, people gonna look back and they're gonna be like, yo, where the hell was y'all? And they will have to answer to that, not us. We know who we was. We know what we did. We invited them. I personally invited them. Derek personally invited them. We went to Washington. They have my information. They have my direct contact. I'm very accessible. I'm busy, but you know, I try to make time for everybody, and they know that.
TikTok, the clock is ticking. We're calling you out on your bullshit, politicians. You need to speak up. This is clearly revolutionary change. We're here for the people, and you need to speak up. So I've seen multiple of you support the Bessemer campaign last year. Where are you for us? There's many of you that are politicians that are in New York City that you have delegates in your own district that are workers. We have workers not only in all 5 boroughs, but from all over the country and internationally. There are organizers, including myself, who came from Arizona. We have California, Florida, and even Canada. Organizers are here to try and make change because we know it's so desperately needed. Where are you?
You know, like Chris said, you know, we invited them out here, and they said they were gonna come, but last minute, you know, changed their mind. So, you know, they've been absent ever since. But, you know, that we can't let that discourage us. You know, we just got to keep moving. You know, keep our movement alive because these workers are dependent on us. They looking at us as leaders. So that's all we got to do is just continue to lead by example, win, lose, or draw.
So they've specifically said, like, oh, you're doing such a good job. We're getting, like, letters from patients saying you're doing a good job. So it's almost like, even though we're still doing a good job and we still care and we're still trying hard, it's more of like, because you can, you have to.
Like on my floor specifically, they added an extra room. So what it used to be a room for like to do echoes, like and like heart, whatever, ultrasounds, and somehow the next day I came back and they switched it to a patient's room, so they can add more patients. So we're originally like a 48 bed unit, and then they added the extra room, and I ask people, I'm like, how is this possible when we don't even have the staff to take care of the 48 patients we have now? The COVID patients are horrified. They're so scared because like they're stuck in isolation. Their family members can't visit them. Like I can't imagine like this is the face that they see, and it's not even like my face. It's like a mask and like a full gown PPE screaming to them because they can't hear me. Because whether they have a high flow mask, like it's like this hot air blowing up your nose, like at like 100% oxygen, like it's painful, it's super loud, it can get sweaty for them, like they're uncomfortable, they're crying, they miss their family, they just want to get better. It's sad. It's a sad sight.
And normally, like, we could have the honor of being one of those visitors and people to take care of those patients, considering they can't have family, they can't have visitors. Some of them don't even have smartphones to like FaceTime family. My grandfather was actually recently here on a COVID unit, and the fact that he didn't have visitors for nearly 2 weeks, and the staff taking care of him was the only people that he saw for that amount of time. That is just very unfortunate that we don't even have the time to see.
It doesn't sound like the staff could adequately care.
Right.
It's basically like factory line working, going through a patient giving them their meds, giving their assessment. I can't even like have a full-blown conversation. I'm like, oh, are you in pain? How are you feeling? Like, I'll ask my orientation questions, and that's like basically the conversation.
You guys are going on 30 days. It's not easy to go on strike. Obviously, it seems like they're threatening your benefits now, your health care, important for healthcare workers. What has been their response? Do you think they're operating in good faith? Are they negotiating in good faith? Have they basically told you to take a hike? What has been the response?
Personally, I don't think they're bargaining in good faith. They're like from the union and like the bargaining team. I don't really speak for them, but like I know like they'll post like, oh, we're still waiting for Catholic Health to come up. Like they're do no call, no shows. Like the bargaining team is waiting hours on hours for whoever the bargaining team for Catholic Health is to come and talk to them. And
It's not showing up.
yeah, they don't show up, or they show up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, here you go. Like you can't expect someone to like read this whole paperwork and say, yeah, this is okay, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, you need to be sleeping, you know? And then like our environmental staff, the people who are like cleaning the COVID rooms, cleaning everybody's rooms, cleaning like the blood and guts off operating tables, like they're paid like $13 an hour. That's not even minimum wage. They can go to Tim Hortons and make $20 an hour and not have to deal with the risks that they're doing here, you know?
So talk to the audience. Obviously understaffing. What are some of the other demands you guys have been making?
In the beginning, they proposed to take away like our health insurance. They wanted to give us a high deductible health insurance. They wanted to do that. They didn't want to give us like a huge wage increase. Oh, and they wanted to get rid of our pension. So like, yeah. So like all the senior nurses, not only are they're not getting the wage, their pension is being frozen. And like, what?
Pashan was 38, and in January, suddenly came home, told her sister her head hurt, and then the next day she passed away in her sleep. No major health problems. But the only thing we do know is that for months she was actually at Amazon in Virginia administering COVID tests, the nasal swabs, up her coworkers' noses. Something that she had spoken with you about. Other workers said that they saw her doing the testing. Amazon would not speak with me on the record. They would not. They tried to sweep this under the rug. They actually, from what I know, intimidated workers there in that warehouse from even talking about your sister's death. So I want to start with, you know, your sister was doing this testing, and you and her, because you had worked at Amazon with her, you and her had rarely fought, but you had kind of gotten into it because you were worried about her bringing something home to your mother during COVID.
Yes, we got into it about 2 times about it. And the last time we got into it was December. And I told her, when I first brought it up to her and told her, is when she did the anonymous emails, and then she did the text message, and then she did the emails under her information.
Just so you guys know, she emailed her supervisors once as herself, identifying herself, asking, are you going to close the warehouse? This was at the beginning of the pandemic about a year ago. They were not cleaning properly in this Virginia warehouse, just like they weren't cleaning properly here. They weren't even cleaning the trays that you work on, that you move products. And then she emailed anonymously, even to the corporate headquarters in Seattle, basically saying that they're just totally disregarding us and our lives during this pandemic.
So yeah, the first was like May was when she May was when she started sending the emails, and she sent them from May up until I believe October, November. And the last time we got into it, we got in an argument about it was December, after Christmas, and then my sister passed in January. I just want to know. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, you know, we got to state the facts, and the facts is that she was working at Amazon Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. doing COVID testing. And she was not a doctor, nurse, a medical assistant, a medical profession, a CNA. She wasn't a RN. She wasn't anything. She came into Amazon to be a sorter. She had no business COVID testing. He had no business having employees COVID test. My sister was one of the first couple of employees who were doing COVID testing. She was trained by another employee to do COVID testing, and that employee was trained by another employee to do COVID testing. No one had ever came in, no doctor had ever came in to train, no nurse had ever came in to train. Why is this happening?
And also, when you see actual doctors or nurses do those swabs, they're head to toe covered. N95, goggles, gowns. Did your sister have any of that?
She didn't have any of that, and I asked her because we would be on FaceTime, and when she would get off when she would have to test somebody, she would get off the phone because you really can't be on your phone anyway in a warehouse. But she had the Amazon check mask on, and then she had a headband that she would wear, so she had the earpiece. And I asked her, I said, you don't even know how far to put that up somebody's nose. Why are you doing that? What if you hurt somebody? Who's going to be responsible for that? And she said, look, you know, they showed me what to do. And I told her I wouldn't, you can't do that. You could hurt somebody. If that thing goes too far up somebody's nose, I mean, I don't understand how there was no doctors to be trained. And I don't understand it. It's still now. And why didn't you have doctors? Why didn't you have people come in and be trained? Why didn't you have doctors come in and nurses come in? Why didn't you have them do it? Why did you have regular employees testing employees? And now this has happened, and it's 2 months of counseling that expires in less than 24 hours, and go on with your life?
And one of the only ways to fight back is by organizing in your workplace, by organizing workers, because the future is ours to take.
What got me out here today is to support Austin, a Starbucks worker who has recently been terminated, and to stand in solidarity with other groups other labor groups as well. I myself got fired myself, and I'm just here to fight the good fight, show support.
We're meeting. I was in Atlantic City this past weekend. I met some people. I'm not going to give them away yet because they don't know but I met people from other states that were amazed that we were there. They ran into all 4 founders, me, Chris, Derek, and Jordan. So it was like they took pictures like they're ecstatic. And, it went to show us that how much, people around at these other places need our help. Those people in ERW9 out there in Jersey, they definitely need our help. This is why unions are needed. There's a man dead now.
Man, I ain't gonna cry right now, but damn, 2 years ago, my life changed forever. I only wanted to do the right thing and speak up for the workers behind me. Jason was one of them, Derek, Jordan, Gerald, everybody, and JFK. When COVID-19 came to play, Amazon failed us. They dropped the ball. They lied to the public saying they're doing all these things. None of that was the reality of our situation. So I let a walkout after they quarantined just me and nobody else. And that walkout led to my firing. Then a week after that, a couple weeks after that, maybe a week or two, that memo that came out calling me not smart or articulate. Ironically, they also said to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts, which I had no intention at the time. And when I read that memo, that motivated me to start an organization called the Congress of Essential Workers, TCOEW. My brothers right here, Derek Palmer, Gerald Bryson, Jordan Flowers. We traveled the country. We picked up some comrades along the way. We protested in front of every Jeff Bezos mansion and penthouse that we can find on Google. And it led us to 11 months ago. After we went down to Alabama last year when they had their first campaign. And we saw some things that we thought that we could do better independently. So that's what we decided to do. We decided to come back home to Staten Island and start unionizing JFK. And not just JFK, we wanted all 4 of them. They built up 4 buildings in 2 years. So we said, you know what? This is our complex now. We tried to do 4 buildings. The first petition didn't go our way because Amazon fired 1,000 people in 6 months. Wasn't because we didn't sign up 2,000-3,000 people. We did that. But unfortunately, by the time we filed the petition and the process took a while, Amazon got rid of 1,000 people, whether they quit or they got fired. I'm blaming Amazon because they have a system that get rid of people anyway. So that's what happened. Yeah, that too. They gave us a faulty payroll, but it didn't matter. We were able to file right back in 6 weeks, and we got to an election with JFK by itself.
Chris, do you have a message, because a lot of mainstream media might not be aware of workers like Daquan Smith, who was fired and became homeless, workers like Bashan Brown, who was testing workers for COVID and dropped dead suddenly. Can you talk about the names that people might not know that have suffered at Amazon?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of names. Gerald Bryson is one of them. Jordan Flowers is one of them. Bashan Brown, Daquan Smith, myself. I've been unemployed. I need my job back, right? Still pending with the AG's office. There's a lot of unheard voices, but the one that really, I'm glad you brought up Bashan Brown. She lost her life, 38 years old black woman, testing Amazon workers, testing her coworkers in the middle of the pandemic, leaving behind her 12-year-old daughter Gabby, because Amazon made workers test each other with no facial masks, no N95s, no cleaning, no gowns, no plexiglass in the warehouse. They had workers testing each other. I'm talking about swab. and she died. She lost her life. And that company, all they did was put up the GoFundMe that we put out there. That's it. That's all. And to be honest with you, you know, the more I think about that, it infuriates me. But thankfully, I was able to get connected with her and help amplify it to some degree, but it's not enough. And that's why unionizing and coming together for workers to have a platform to tell their stories is important.
Send parts of these interviews where 24-year-olds are saying, you know, I'm living with my parents because I can't get enough hours. Or 20-somethings are saying, oh yeah, this strong job market, I sent in 55 job applications and I didn't get a call back from any of them. They don't want to hire anyone. Send the parts of these interviews where 20-somethings, which are their kids' age or their grandkids' age. I'm talking about the voters that keep voting for the Bidens and the Clintons and the Obamas and the Cory Bookers and these establishment Democrats. Send it to them and make sure they're seeing that, yeah, the people you're voting for are basically stealing a whole generation's future because they're screwing them. And they're letting these corporations run roughshod over people. And because they take money, Starbucks donates, Amazon donates, make sure it's not just your Republican uncle who needs to see it. It's your neoliberal auntie, okay? It's your academic in your family that keeps voting for these status quo Democrats. Because frankly, not to my audience, the baby boomer generation is who keeps voting. They are the most reliable voters. They are the strongest voters. They vote the most, and they vote in general. And this goes across, it's not just old white people, older black voters too. They vote for the Nancy Pelosi's, the James Clyburns, the Cory Bookers, the Bidens, the Pete Buttigieg's. They need to see, oh no, it's not just laziness. There are no good jobs. And this is a capitalist hellscape we're living in. And if you then hear from them, well, in my day, oh yeah, well, in your day, college wasn't $60,000 a year. You can go to college. I think Elizabeth Warren said her tuition was like $500 a semester. Okay, in your day, you actually you actually had unions or stronger unions. In your day, rent wasn't $5,000 in a major American city. So I don't want to hear any more about your fucking day.